NASCAR is in chaos. And it is all because of one pedal that nobody is supposed to be using. Every team in the garage has the answer sitting right in front of them. The data is open. The footage is public. Dale Earnhardt Jr. explained the whole thing on national television. And not one American Cup driver can do a single thing to stop it. Chicago, 2023. A street course in pouring rain. Shane Van Gisbergen's very first Cup Series start in his entire life. The field was sliding, spinning, and crashing into walls. SVG won the race. But that is not the story. When the broadcast cut to the camera inside his footwell, the entire NASCAR paddock went silent. Because he was doing something with a clutch pedal that nobody in that garage had even attempted in over 15 years. It was a secret hiding in plain sight. And now that it has been exposed, the anger inside the Cup garage is starting to boil over. Kyle Larson says there is zero chance he ever learns it. Denny Hamlin says going back is not even an option. Austin Cindric flew all the way to Australia to crack the code and came home with nothing. And behind closed doors, drivers are now pointing fingers directly at the NASCAR rulebook. Stay with this, because what is being whispered inside the hauliers right now could force NASCAR to change the rules before the season is over. First, you need to understand what the next-gen car actually is. NASCAR's next-gen car runs a 5-speed sequential gearbox. Drivers do not need the clutch to change gears. The clutch pedal has exactly 2 jobs: getting off pit road and the green flag start. After that, it just sits there. Every American Cup driver operates the same way. Left foot on the brake, right foot on the throttle, clutch ignored completely. That has been the NASCAR way since 2022. Then Shane Van Gisbergen walked into that garage and quietly broke the entire system. Everyone watching that first race assumed he was just using the clutch to smooth his gear changes. That is not what he was doing. Not even close. What he was doing came from years of racing at Bathurst, the most demanding road circuit on the planet. In a V8 Supercar, drivers deal with a locked rear differential. Under hard braking, the rear tires want to skip, hop, and lock up. The fix every serious Supercars driver learns is to briefly dip the clutch, disconnect the engine from the rear wheels for just a fraction of a second at the peak of the braking zone. The rear stops fighting itself. As the car turns into the corner, the clutch comes back out, and that drivetrain re-engagement pulls the nose right where the driver wants it. 3 Bathurst 1000 victories. 3 Supercars championships. This technique is not something SVG thinks about. It is wired into his hands and his feet. He told Dale Earnhardt Jr. directly, "I don't think it is a big advantage. Of course I'm going to say that, but it's all I've known." That is the polite version. The real version is that he is doing something nobody else in the Cup Series can copy, and he knows it. Here is what Dale Earnhardt Jr. exposed on his podcast. Dale broke it down in plain English. He's right foot braking, and he's got his foot on the clutch. When he starts to feel the rear tires trying to drag, he will modulate the clutch just slightly to dampen the load on the drivetrain. That small, precise disconnect keeps the rear tires planted and calm through every single braking zone. But it goes further. SVG also uses clutch modulation to pitch and rotate the car deeper into corners, turning the clutch into a mechanical steering tool, where every other driver in the field is reaching for the brake bias adjustment knob. SVG is doing the work with his left foot. Dale Jr. said it as bluntly as it can be said. This ain't something NASCAR guys do. We don't use the clutch to control wheel hop or any of that. That one quote exposed everything. And the Cup garage has not been the same since. The real damage does not show up in qualifying. It shows up 30 laps into a run, when everyone else's rear tires are already cooked. Connor Zilisch, SVG's most consistent threat on road courses, described exactly what he sees from inside the race. You never see him slipping tires. There's times where everybody else is getting to wide open throttle, and he's not even getting to wide open. Just little things like that where he doesn't push the car beyond what it needs to be pushed. And then, as fuel drops and tire wear builds across the field, whenever people say he's toying with people, it might not even be on purpose, but he just is able to save his stuff and maintain the lead. And then when he wants to go, he can go. That is the weapon. Tire preservation that turns into pure pace at the exact moment every other driver in the field has nothing left to give. And that is why the anger inside the Cup garage is starting to spill into the open. Kyle Larson at Sonoma, frustrated and blunt. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. There's zero chance I can learn how to do that. And even if I did, there's zero chance that I can have it be better than what I'm probably doing with left foot braking. He's just so good. Denny Hamlin, who actually won at Mexico City years ago using right foot braking. Going back is not an option. Kyle Busch, with no patience left for the question. It would be until my retirement before I am even 10% as good as he is at it. Christopher Bell, I wouldn't even know where to begin. Austin Cindric flew all the way to Adelaide, Australia, paid for a Supercars wildcard entry specifically to practice this technique under real race conditions, and came back still unable to execute it when race pressure arrived. Even SVG's own teammate Ross Chastain, the one driver with full access to his setup and data, could not make it work. My feet are on the wrong pedals when I do it his way. I can do it intentionally for like a corner or three, and then I get to the next corner, the next lap, and I go back to my way. It's just muscle memory. And then Dale Earnhardt Jr. delivered the verdict that ended every debate. This is a technique that you need to be doing from the day that you start driving race cars. It is not a skill that can be retrofitted into a driver who has spent a decade or more building their braking technique in the opposite direction. Translation: the entire American Cup field is locked out of this skill for the rest of their careers. And they know it. Now look at what the numbers actually show. In the 2025 season, SVG won 5 of the 6 road course races on the schedule: Charlotte Roval, Watkins Glen, Mexico City, Sonoma, and Chicago. His average running position on road courses that year was 3.34. The next closest driver in the entire field was Christopher Bell at 10.09. That gap is not competition. That is a different sport. In 2026, he won Watkins Glen by more than 7 full seconds. His career Cup Series road course win rate stands at 33%, more than double Kyle Larson's career rate, and more than double the rate Marcos Ambrose posted during his entire NASCAR career. He now sits equal third on the all-time NASCAR road course wins list. Denny Hamlin assessed it directly. Has there been someone with this big of an advantage on road courses? I don't think so. You certainly would think SVG relative to the field has got a bigger gap than anybody in history. When the most respected veteran in the garage says nobody in NASCAR history has had a bigger advantage, that is when the rulebook conversation starts. And that conversation is already happening. Behind closed doors, drivers and team executives are openly questioning whether SVG's clutch usage falls within the spirit of NASCAR's rulebook. The clutch pedal was never engineered as a performance tool. It was put in the car for pit lane and the green flag. Nothing else. NASCAR could mandate a clutch lockout after the launch phase. Some international sports car series have already done exactly that. It sounds extreme, but it is being whispered loudly enough now that it is no longer just rumor. And if SVG wins at Phoenix in the championship round, the pressure on NASCAR to step in and rewrite the rule will become impossible to ignore. Shane Van Gisbergen, 36 years old, from Auckland, New Zealand, driving the number 97 Chevrolet for Trackhouse Racing, has, for the foreseeable future, an advantage that NASCAR handed him by accident the day they built a next-gen car with a clutch pedal that nobody else in the garage knows how to use. He says people are overthinking it. He is being polite. He knows exactly what he has. And he knows the only way it gets taken away from him is if NASCAR changes the rulebook to do it. That is why this sport is in chaos right now. And that is why the rulebook fight has already begun. If you want honest, straight-shooting NASCAR coverage that does not talk down to you, hit the like button and subscribe right now. Every single like and subscription genuinely helps this channel grow. Tell us in the comments, should NASCAR step in and ban this clutch technique, or should the rest of the field stop complaining and figure it out themselves? And which oval track does Shane Van Gisbergen win on first? The comments are open. Let us hear what you think.